Hey everyone, Charles here. And first of all, thank you for stopping by my podcast. If this show inspires you, makes you think, or gives you that courage to jump into action, please help by donating to this show. Click the link in the description and donate. Your donation helps us with production and finding great guests moving forward. Thank you and enjoy. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Jump Podcast. If this is your first time here, welcome. Now, Jump is all about getting to the next level. Now, I don't mean jumping up and down. You know, we could all do that. But what I'm talking about is jumping into greatness. Success is waiting. What are you waiting for? So I try to find out the best people around to help me talk about jumping to the next level. And I think I got the guy for you today. So if you want to sit back and relax and find out what he did to change his life around. You know, we're just relaxing, two brothers talking. I think this is the show for you. Stay tuned and let's jump.
You know you should be doing something different, right? Hey, I'm talking to you. Do you believe that you have the gift for greatness or have a special talent, but don't have the courage to take that next step? Always wondering how others made it look so easy? Well, welcome to Jump, the show that will bring you special guests just like you and me. How did they get the courage to jump into greatness? Doing what they love and living the good life. So, get ready to jump with your host, Charles Matthews Jr.
Thank you so much for joining us live. Now, please welcome, he's an author, he's a speaker, he's a coach, and I think after this, he's going to be a great friend. Please welcome to the show, Mike. Give him a big round of applause.
Hey, Charles. Hey, everybody out there. Thanks for having me.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Doing well.
Good. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from upstate New York.
There you go. How's the weather right now, man? I got my hoodie on. I'm just relaxed with you because it's kind of chilly right now.
Yeah, it's heading in that direction. It's about 45, somewhere around there. It's heading in that direction toward the 30s, which is the norm for this time of year.
All right. So, Mike, man, let me ask you. You look like a big boy. You work out, man?
Yeah, I've worked out all my life. I mean, I've played a lot of sports and coming up in high school and played sports in the military. So, yeah, working out is a big part of my life for sure.
All right, so let's backtrack. Let's talk about your life. Born and raised, where are you from?
Originally from Paterson, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yes, sir. If you remember the 1980s movie Lean on Me with Principal Joe Clark, that's my high school, Paterson East Side, The Ghost.
That was really your high school?
Yes, sir. That's my high school.
Man, you seen that on the film, be like, hey, that's my locker right there.
Yeah. You know what? It's hilarious because I was new in the military when the movie came out. When the movie came out, I was in my first year in the military, I think, and I remember going to the movie theater down in Alabama where we were stationed with a couple more of my troop friends, and I'm sitting there in the theater. I'm like, oh man, I know that guy. Oh, I know that area. Oh yeah, I used to play ball over there. And they're like, oh, stop it. You don't know those people. I'm like, sure I do. You know,
you had to go back and pull out all the old photos with the afros and stuff growing up, right?
Right.
All right, so if that's your high school, man, then what was your dreams and aspirations growing up? Like, what did you want to become? What did you want to do? Or was military was always in your foresight?
No, not at all. Military wasn't in my foresight at all for a long time. I thought I was going to be playing for the Dallas Cowboys. That was my goal.
Okay.
That was my goal. I was going to be a wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. You know, I had one of those little plastic cheap helmets that my parents bought back in the days with the star on the side, and you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to be a receiver for the Cowboys. But it didn't work out that way. You know, didn't work out that way, and I opted to go into the military instead.
So what age did you jump in?
As soon as I turned 18, I was gone. Yep, I was gone. I knew that I wanted to get out of the inner city as well. You know, I grew up in a good home, 2-parent home, which was a rarity for the area that we grew up in. You know,
right.
two solid parents that came from the South and migrated north to New Jersey, made a life for themselves, and raised me and my brothers and my one sister, and they did a great job at that. I mean, in terms of financial wherewithal, we never had a lot in that regard, but in terms of morals and integrity and, just being taught the lessons of hard work, seeing my mom and dad get up every morning and do what they do, that still carries me to this day. So
they held it down. They held
it down big time, still holding it down. And right now they're somewhere, I think, in the upper 50s in terms of years married.
Nice.
I don't remember the exact one. Yeah.
Well, congratulations to those two. So you said you got what, brothers and sisters?
Yes, sir. I have. It was 5 boys and 1 girl. My sister's the baby of the family. She was the last try for a girl. And
my God, I feel sorry for that man who tried to date that girl.
Tell me about it. Yes, sir.
He had to come to the door, knock on the door. Not only did he have the father to deal with, she had like 5 brothers standing there going, "What do you want with my sister?"
Right. Yeah. So there's 5 of us. I'll tell this part when I get more deeper in my story, but one of the brothers is no longer here, unfortunately, due to suicide. And so those are some waters that we had to traverse through as a family and move to a new normal, if I can say that.
So let's talk about that then. Let's talk about what is the new normal, because I read your bio. People are going to understand what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let's dive right into it. So in the military, you go in there as 18.
Right. And
then take us from that journey, because a lot of us can't see it. Leaving home at 18, jumping into the military. What's it like? What do we see is on TV and compared to real life? And what is like? What's it like?
Yeah. So, excuse me. So, my oldest brother Eddie was a Marine, and so he kind of prepared me mentally. Once I made the decision that that's the route that I was going to take, he kind of groomed me as much as he could to get ready for boot camp and things of that nature, just from the mental prep side. As it relates to the physical side, I knew I could handle that with no problem, because working out in the inner city, even to get on a basketball court, you got to be halfway decent, or else you'll be sitting on the sideline for a long time. Okay. So I grew up just playing all sports and being pretty good at them.
Yeah.
So I went into boot camp, and just like he said, it was what he told me it was going to be. When I finished boot camp, I was in an engineer unit that can be deployed anywhere in the world, because we dealt with explosives. We could build bridges, we could blow bridges, we could do all that kind of stuff. So it was a unit that went in and did some nasty stuff from time to time. And my second year in, we were sent to the border of Nicaragua. We're talking in the mid 80s right now. I don't want to date myself, but we're talking the mid 80s right now. If you remember, what's his name, Colonel Oliver North, and that whole situation there that was happening with Contra, Sandinista. The Sandinista were a group of Nicaraguan rebels that had overrun Nicaragua, and they put a coup in place, and they took over Nicaragua, and they were coming for Honduras. Honduras is American interest, so the president at that time obviously wasn't having that, and he sent us in with Marines and with other special type troops to go in and do special things, to put that fire out, if you will, and protect Honduras. And so I was in that environment and that deployment for 6 months, and it was, there's no reference point for something like that. No matter how difficult an upbringing you had, there's no reference point for being in a hostile situation where your life can be taken any second. You don't know what's around the next bush. And we're talking Central America, so it's lush jungle out there and things of that nature. And one of the things that I saw older guys doing, and I'll preface that by saying this is no slight on the military or anything like that, but the reality is that sometimes in situations like that, the situation is so surreal, and because you don't have a reference point for it, you do things to anesthetize yourself to the reality, to numb yourself to the reality. And that's where addiction started from me. I mean, you literally could walk through some of that jungle and find things that cartels had hidden out there, and dudes would chew. I would see older troops chewing coca leaves. I just see them chewing green leaves. And I'm like, well, what is that?
Yeah.
They said, you got to do this. You do this, you get numb. That way, if today is your day, you don't feel anything. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and I started joining the bandwagon. We had this mantra. Today is our day. We chew the leaf. We said, yep, today is our day to get our head up just in case we get wet up.
Yeah.
And that was a mentality in that kind of a crazy unit. You had to function that way. I'm not saying that everybody did that, because that would be a lie, but a lot of us did, just to
make
function.
Just to go through the day and say, okay, whew, that's another day. Moving on from there.
Just to go through the day. And you also, if you have any kind of heart, your heart has to be anesthetized, and you become monster-like, almost like you're in a video game or something like that, because you can't feel for other human beings in that environment that you're told to go and do X, Y, and Z against. Gotcha. So it's something that people have no reference point for unless you've been in it.
So then, how long were you in the military for?
I stayed in the military altogether for just shy of 8 years. So when I came back from that situation, my second year, or when I came back from the situation in Central America, the issue was the situation didn't leave me. So I still was able to rise up through the ranks and all, but I knew something had changed about me as a person. I wasn't the same. I wasn't the same guy. And then I would be, even though I rose up, I hit sergeant and kept rising, because I thrive in that disciplined environment. I loved it. I loved being a soldier. And then when I became a sergeant, I loved leading the troops and training the troops. But I had this other secret side of me now. Like, from time to time, I didn't know why my mind was thinking what I was thinking. And to express that at the level I was at would be to show weakness, especially in the unit that I was in. So I kind of just suffered secretly. And from time to time, I would sneak off and go and do a substance here, or go and drink a little bit too much here, saying that this addiction thing that was developed in Central America was now on me, but I didn't understand it. But I know it just kept calling me, and so I functioned and got along in the military for all those years. And eventually my last year in, I said, what, this is getting crazy here. I really got to get some help. So I reached out and started to get some counseling. And then eventually I made the choice to get out the military, because my initial intention was, now that I had all this training, weapons training, this, that, and the other, I was going to go back home. Once I had a handle on this addiction thing, my plan was to go back home and join the New Jersey State Trooper, because I fit height, size, build, all that stuff. That was what I was going to do. And my dad actually had a contact who was a guy who was a captain in a New Jersey State Trooper, and he was the lead recruiter for quote unquote minority recruitment. So my dad was, preaching me to him, and he was ready when I came out. But again, that addiction thing wasn't done with me, and I still, when I got home, I didn't tell people what I was dealing with. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell everybody that I love what I was dealing with, because again, I really didn't know. I just know that that craving to continue to do some of the stuff that I was doing when I was deployed kept happening. And eventually it started ruining my life,
Now, hold on. Let me stick a pin in there for a second.
Sure.
You said you didn't want to tell. Is it because you thought, oh, I can handle this? This is something I can handle. Okay, just a little bit more. I know I can break this thing. Or why didn't you want to say something? Why didn't you want to, get help? You said you looked for help, but you didn't want to tell the family. Why?
Well, I didn't want to tell them because, number one, I didn't want to be seen as somebody who left and went out and did all these great things and then came back as some kind of a failure. And it was, to me, it was a sign of weakness to say that these substances that can't move themselves unless I move them are now taking over me. I mean, I've never been that psychologically weak. So, gotcha. So I chose to. The other thing is that because of the unpredictability of what was going on in my head, I didn't want that to be around my parents, because I still had the psychological stuff of all that I had gone through. I had never really processed all that. I just kind of got out, came out the situation, went back into military service, the regular day-to-day, and kept living as, kept doing what I was called to do, but never really processed the psychological pain of that too. So all that stuff combined eventually got the best of me. And suffering in silence is the best way that I know how to explain it. And eventually I said, you know what? I'm kind of no good for anybody right now. So I'm just going to take myself off the radar or off the grid, if you will. And I was homeless. To one extent by choice, because all my families have homes and things of that nature, and they would easily take me in. But I didn't want to bring that on them. So I used my military training and all to live in the streets. And that's what I did. I was kind of nomadic for a couple years, back and forth to the Veterans Hospital, but not telling anybody still what I was dealing with. I would secretly go to the Veterans Hospital, get some counseling, sit in one of those therapy groups, and then come back. And when the reality of my situation got the best of me, I would go and drink or do something else. And I was caught in that vortex for a while.
All right. So here it is then.
Yep.
We're listening to your story. Everybody's thinking right now, oh my God, he's gone through this. He did this. He's gone through this. This is traumatic. But then everybody wants to know now, because if they, here it is, if they click on this and go to your website, I said in the beginning, speaker, author, great man. They want to know when the jump came. When did you jump and everything just turned around? Like, what happened? What was it? A light bulb? Did you look in the mirror one day? What happened?
Yeah, Charles. So in the midst of my bondage, is what I'll call it, I would always say to myself, even when I'm sitting somewhere in a park by myself, just reflecting over my life, I would always say to myself, if I don't die in this situation here, something good is going to come out of this. I would always say that. And I always had a belief in God. I didn't have a name or a real religious reference for it. I just knew that the spirit in me was connected to a being that was a whole lot more powerful than me, and even had kept me alive in that Central America situation, still keeping me alive. So there's got to be purpose of some sort to my life if I make it through this. I've always thought that way. And so one day I'd come up out of about a 48-hour stupor and was kind of staggering my way to my mom and dad's house, literally. I just wanted to go in, take a shower, maybe get something to eat, and maybe sleep for a couple hours and be gone, because I would pop in from time to time. They'd want to see me at least, but they wouldn't ask me questions, but they knew that I was different. Yeah. My mom would always say, I'm not sure what's going on, but I know you're not the same Mike that left here years ago. She would say that. And so when I was on the way there, I saw a guy that used to be in the streets with me when I first came home from the service. This is about 3 years now after the fact. And this guy was as clean as a whistle. It was a Sunday morning. He was as clean as a whistle, and he was going somewhere. He had a little Bible under his arm, and he saw me, and he was like, brother, all I'm going to say, I'm not going to preach to you. All I'm going to say is that you have way too much potential. You don't have to stay in that situation right there. Help is available. And he told me about a place that was on Broadway in Paterson, New Jersey. It's a spiritual place, a Christian place. Anyway, I went there just to see what he was talking about, and my intention was to just go there, maybe get a couple meals, have a conversation with people, and kind of recharge my battery.
That's it. Get in.
Yeah,
that's it. I'm gone.
That was my intention. But during the couple days that I stayed in that place, something happened. Something happened in my mind, in my spirit, in my resolve to conquer what had conquered me. And I had a long talk with the director of the place. I'll never forget that. And he just said, maybe you just need to get out of Paterson, get out of familiar surroundings, and go somewhere. And he told me about this place that was kind of in the suburbs, a place called Morristown, New Jersey, which is about 30 miles west of the inner city where I'm from. And he made a contact up there to another program that was a Christian program on one hand, but also offered clinical counseling on the other hand. It was the best of both worlds. So I said, you know what? I'm interested in that. So, and they also dealt with a lot of veterans too. So I said, yeah, I'll go. He had somebody put me in a van, or I jumped in the van. They took me up there, and that's where everything changed. So more specifically to your question of when the jump happened, I met a man in that place, in Morristown, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I met a gentleman by the name of Dr. Solomon J. Tivade. He was from India, originally from India, and he was a pastor, but he was also a clinical counselor, full-fledged clinical counselor. He would train other counselors. And this man took me on. He and I had a few conversations, and he took me on as his mentee, as his project, if you will. And he said this to me one day, Charles. These words are in my book. He said this to me. He said, Mike, you don't have to stay where you are. He said, what's keeping you where you are right now is that you've been in the abnormal so long that the abnormal has become your norm and it's become comfortable. And that's what's made you stuck in life.
Hold on. Say that one more time.
He said, you don't have to stay where you are, implying that where you are in life right now is not indicative of who you are. There's still more to you. And he said, you've been in an abnormal situation for so long, being addicted and living in a homeless state and all that. That's not normal. But if you stay in any kind of dysfunction long enough, it will turn into a normalcy and have our lives paralyzed right there. And that's what he said to me. And then he said, when the pain of where you are, these words are literally in my book, Take Your Power Back. He said, when the pain of where you are is greater or more powerful than the fear of where you have the potential to go, then you'll move. That's what he said to me. And I started to weigh that out, and I said, wow. And he explained to me that pain and fear are what we call in counseling dual motivators. They'll either propel us or they'll paralyze our progress. And it's all based on our perception. He said, Mike, you got to change the way you see what's occurred in your life. And he said, when you stop seeing it as something that happened to you and start seeing it as something that possibly could have happened for you, that's when you take the power out of the pain and you transform it into something that can push you into your purpose. And that was all I needed right there. That was the linchpin, Charles, that opened it up altogether.
All right, I'm supposed to take a break right now. I'm not going to, because I want to jump into this. I want to keep going. Okay, I want to know then. The light bulb's on.
Yes, sir.
You figuring this out? Where did the old Mike transform into the new Mike? What point? Because now you're a 3-time author.
Sure.
Speaker. So what after that? After he told you that, what happened?
So he told me when you finish this program, which was 9 months, and he told me at around the 6th month, he told me that. He said, when you finish this program, if I were you, I would just stay here. You're a single guy. You have no children, no anything at this point. I would stay here. I would stick around. And he said, what you can do is you can come on board here in this organization. We'll hire you, and you can help out younger guys that are coming through, because you have the ability to counsel younger guys, or at least advise them. And what we'll do in terms of pay for you, we'll pay you just a stipend monetarily. But what we'll do for you on a bigger scale is we'll give you the option to go to college and study. And they opened that door for me, Charles, and I went 13 years straight and knocked out 3 degrees up to the beginning of a PhD in psychology. And I stopped. I didn't finish the PhD, but I have 3 degrees, 3 earned degrees, all in counseling. And one of them, my master's degree, is a combination of theology and also pastoral counseling and care. So I had that training as well. All and right, everything changed from that point.
I got to stop here for a second.
Yes, sir.
I've always said it, and I'm going to say it again. It happened to me, and listen to your story. In life, you're going to meet somebody that's going to gravitate to you. Teacher, friend, lawyer, doctor, police person. I don't care what it is. When that opportunity comes, grab it. All right? I've been telling that for years, because there's somebody that God puts in your life to teach you, to put you underneath their wing, because they see something in you. You might not see something in yourself, but they see it.
That's
either
right.
Either they saw that you're a take charge kind of guy from the military, you got that presence, you got that, that built, that height that people will gravitate to and feel comfortable to. Whatever it is, you might not see it every day you look in the mirror, but someone else sees it. So here's the thing, people. If you find that person and you see them calling you and trying to help you and do it, don't push them away. Because that might be your key to success. That might be your one person to success, and that is his. And see what happens? 3 degrees, moving forward. Now let's talk about this. Let's talk about the great things you're doing, because that's amazing.
Sure. So in the process of earning these degrees, I started submitting applications to different organizations that was in the area. And I started out wanting to work with youth. And so I ended up landing a job. Now I'm still working at the program and still going to school. But then I took on a 3/4 time job, if you will, with an organization that was right there in town that was working with 12 to 18-year-old at-risk youth. So most of these youth kind of were growing up the way I grew up, except that I had parents, and most of them are growing up in single-parent homes, and just feeling like once they get out of high school, that's going to be it for them. And I was like, no. Now I'm on fire at this point. I'm in college. Charles, you gotta understand. How do you go from a homeless vet that's been in a hostile combat situation and dealing with the psychological trauma of it, compounded with addiction and all this other stuff? Can you imagine me on the first day of school? I was like, how'd I get here, man? How did this happen? But I'm gonna tell you, it lit a fire in me that hasn't gone out to this day. And knocked out those degrees. But in the process of knocking out those degrees, different organizations were hiring me now to work with people who were dealing with difficult situations. So I've worked in 25 years, fast forward 25 years later. Now I've directed programs for homeless youth, for work with veterans in different contexts, work with women in battered shelters, domestic violence shelters, work with people dealing with all kinds of brokenness and life adverse situations, but not only people at the lower echelon of life. I've also worked for 12 years with the National Football League. I went and spoke somewhere one day in New Jersey, and sitting in the audience, out of 800 people in the audience, was the head chaplain of the New York Giants football and New York Yankees at the same time, a guy named George McGovern. To this day, he's one of my good friends. He came up to me, stood in line and waited, to shake hands and say, hey, great message. And he said, can I speak to you kind of offline for a minute? I said, sure. He told me who he was. He said, the power in your message is definitely something that can help my young guys who have all this money but are kind of going haywire. And so I was in that context for about 11 or 12 years, in the context of what they call spiritual leader or chapel speaker. I'd come in 48 hours before the game and talk to guys and sit and eat with them and things of that nature. And then some of them would even speak to me offline about different situations that they couldn't talk about in the public forum. So from people that have unlimited money, financial wherewithal, to those that pretty much don't have anything in life as it relates to materialism, but they still have hope and the possibility of becoming a better version of themselves. I've been doing that for 25 years now, and I've kind of brought it all under one roof, under my LLC now, Michael Bethune Enterprises, which is public speaking and life coaching, etc.
All right. Now, let me tell the people right now, if you're listening to this, then you realize it's never too late to jump. All right. Your story is there. I don't care what age you are, from the good, the bad, the ugly, the rich, the poor. It's never too late to jump, because I'm going to show you right here. This man is an author. Is this your first book or your second book here?
That's my first book that I wrote when I was in the master's program there, teaching organizations and individuals how to work with people that are in what we call the least of these situations. And that book specifically speaks to people dealing with homelessness, dealing with substance abuse and addiction, and dealing with reentry from incarceration. That shows organizations how to do it better, and just to be more sensitized to the reality of those situations and understand the systemic part that drives those situations to a certain extent too.
All right. Then we move to our second book.
Yeah. 8 Steps to Getting Unstuck in Life. If you look at the subtitle there, the subtitle is Lessons My Brother Taught Me After He Committed Suicide. So literally this book is me in my catharsis state after my brother Ron took his own life, July 14th, 2014. That situation there thrusted my whole family into a very dark place, that you have no reference point for. And with mom and dad at that point being in their late 70s. Now they're in their early 80s. But can you imagine, like our circle had not been broken at all. Everybody was doing pretty good in life, and then that situation happened to him down in Raleigh, North Carolina. He lost his job. Best job he ever had after 13 years. Lost his job, and unfortunately, his marriage fell apart shortly after that, and he went from January to July, in those 7 months, that downward spiral that took him from kind of frustration about the job to despair to, until the ultimate, and drove into a parking lot and took his own life, and in my catharsis, and I still had to be there and be the point person, if you will, Charles, for my family, with all the counseling background and all pastor stuff and all, everybody looked to me, but I was hurting too. So while I'm helping them, I'm performing in the daytime and helping them get through it. And in the evening time, when it's just me alone with myself, my catharsis was to write, like, man, God, what if you've been able to do this differently, that differently? And then when I spoke to people about who was in his life at that time, they told me that's when we went down to Raleigh to clean out his home and all that stuff there. I spoke to people from his job, his barbershop, his church, and they said that when he lost his job and his wife left 3 months later, he just disconnected from all of his network. And that's one of the main things I talk about in that book, is that when you go through the most adverse situations in your life, the worst thing you can do is disconnect from the people that know you and love you the most. Because when you end up on one of those islands on your own and in your own mind, some of your I nevers begin to circulate. And that's a bad place to be.
Yeah, it's funny that you think that going to the barbershop is a connection. There's people around you. There's your old barber, your friends. People walk by, just say, "Hey, how you doing?" And it just gives you that little,
absolutely.
There's people that still love me around here, that like me around here, whatever. We forget that we have a community. The community bonds us together, friends, family. The lady at the grocery store, every time I walk in there, she always waves at me, asks me, "Yo, how's your kids? How's your family?" There's people to connect, but we forget about that.
That's right.
We think everything is done, but we forget about those little people that are out there. So make sure you grab that book. But hold on, it doesn't stop there. We go to this now. Talk about this one.
Yeah, so that book right there, Take Your Power Back, is kind of the summation of everything that you heard me talk about here, explained in great detail. In that book, I walk through. So the book is laid out in 10 steps. And these 10 steps describe in great detail the journey that I took, that I summarize here. But it explains in detail the step I had to take here, step I took here, the step with Dr. Solomon. Once he told me that information, well, it was great information, but it was meaningless unless I took action. So I talk about how I took those steps and how I moved through this entire process and eventually came out in the end understanding what my potential was now. And once I understood my full potential, so these steps walk a person through the first step, which is kind of fear of stepping out and going for what you have the potential to do, all the way to step 10, which is embracing your full potential and launching yourself out there on the world.
What I love about this book is you call them steps. I call them jumping into action, man.
Jumping into action.
There you go, man. I love it. because each time you took that step, it's like, that's a jump. What people don't understand, when you take steps, you're jumping in your life. You're taking the courage to go to the next step. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. People are like, well, Chuck, you can talk about it. And, he's gone through some stuff and Mike can talk about it and blah, blah, blah. No, we all have that in us. Okay. We all have it in us to find that person, take the step. And hey, if you need help, there's help out there. You know what I mean? There's people out there that will help you. So that is the greatest thing ever. So talk about your speaking real quick, before we play the game. I've changed my whole show today because I really wanted to get this out there for you, man.
I appreciate it, man. Really do.
So talk about your talking, and we're going to play one game before I let you go.
Yeah. So, again, in the process of running these programs and working in the higher leadership rungs of these different nonprofits, I've had opportunities to go out and speak all over the place. I've spoken up and down the East Coast, primarily in this country. I've spoken a little bit abroad in different places. But so all the books that you saw I've developed them all into workshops, and people bring me in to do different workshops for different things. So I'm available to speak. I speak in churches. I speak in organizations. I'll speak anywhere. It's not limited to just the realm of Christianity either, because my message is showing hurting people how to transform their pain into power and purpose. And the process of doing that is not an easy one, but I understand that journey. I've made that journey, so I've kind of packaged it, and I help teach other people that as well.
All right, we're gonna try this in a quick second. Here we go.
All right.
All right, it's time for rapid fire, just to get you a little bit more. Give me A, B, C, or D. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. You can explain, but it has to be like a 30-second explanation.
Okay.
And we're going to rip through these real fast. A, B, C, or D? Which one would you like?
Oh, just randomly A, B, C, or D? I'll choose B for Bethune. Why not?
All right, here we go. Ready? Let's go. What advice would you give someone younger than yourself?
Sure. Failure is not final.
There you go. What scares you?
Not preparing what scares me is not being able to protect my children in this crazy world the way that I wish that I could.
All right. Cats or dogs?
Dogs, definitely.
If you can live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I've seen some really nice places. I've been over to India, and I've been a couple different places. I've seen some really nice places, but I guess apart from, I know your question is to geography, but the best place that I would want to live, and wherever that is on the planet, is where family is and where love is. That's my answer.
There you go. I love that answer. Okay. What would you change about yourself?
If I had it to do over again, I would fail quicker and get the lesson out of the way so that I learn it and move and yeah, that's my answer to that. Fail quicker. Don't wait so late in life to fail.
I like that one because you learn from it.
Yeah.
All right. What's there something that you're doing that you have to do but you don't like doing it?
A lot of times I don't like the administrative tediousness of things sometimes, so I hire smart people to do that for me.
All right. So what is the one thing you like doing then?
I love doing what I'm doing right now. I love standing on any platform, physical or digital, and pouring my heart and my life and my experience into people to see them begin to move toward their full God-given potential. I love it. I'm a fish in water when I'm doing that, what we're doing right now.
All right. And the last two questions is, what is your hobby?
Oh, man, I love playing basketball still. I've been sidelined a little bit because I got this literally in a couple days. I have a hip joint replacement being done because I played so hard for so long.
All right, there you go.
But I still love getting out there, tossing it up. I love that. Yeah.
All right. And then the last question is, who do you love the most?
Who do I love the most? Wow. Family.
There you go.
Family. Because if I start saying individual names, I'm going to get all kind of
you
calls.
In trouble, man.
Yeah, family.
leave it at that. Straight point, family.
Family. Yes, sir.
All right. You made it through that one, my friend. Yeah, man. I tell everybody, make it a smart choice. Just say family, your cousin, your aunt. They know. Friends, long-term friend. Your family, cuz. You know your family.
Right. Everybody's family. That's right.
All right. Last one. Let's play it. Let's have some funny. Here we go. Everybody knows the game.
Now time for victory.
couldn't let you go without doing pick 3. You need to give me 3 numbers between 1 and 10, and those are my last 3 questions I'm going to ask you in this interview. Give me 3 numbers between 1 and 10.
3, 7, and 8.
3, 7, and 8. 3. What advice would you give someone trying to pursue a similar career to yours?
I would tell them not to overlook the painful experiences that they've been through in life, because a lot of your power and potential are in the pearls of your pain.
Okay. I know exactly where you're going with that one. Love it.
Yes, sir.
Love it. Okay. Number 7. If you were in my shoes, what question would you have asked you that I never asked you?
Maybe what's the most dumbest thing you've ever done in life?
And the answer is?
For me, it would be riding home from football practice one day with a half-cut shirt on in the summer, shoulder pads on and all. I'm on a bicycle with 3 other friends, and they talked me into taking the football and knocking down a hornet's nest, and we all got lit up like crazy. I'm talking about we were swollen up. We were. My mom didn't hardly recognize me. Those things lit us up good. So that was definitely, that's in the top 3 of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life for sure.
Which book is that one in? Which book is that
That's
one in?
not in the book. That's going to be in the memoir somewhere. Yeah, the memoir will probably be the last one.
All right, and then number 3, name 3 people that is influential in your life.
Oh man, my mom, my dad, who are still on this side of life. I thank God for that. My mom, my dad, and Dr. Solomon, Reverend Dr. Solomon J. Tividay, who's now on the other side of life, but I appreciate everything that he did to no end, and that's in the book as well.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And if you want to listen to more about this gentleman, he is starting up his own podcast. It's Take Your Power Back podcast. You can catch it on all platforms. My friend, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure.
Quite welcome, Charles. Thank you.
Now, listen, everybody, like I said, it's up to you. You can take the steps. You can take the steps like he said in his book. You can take the steps to jump, get to greatness. But here it is. There's people around you that will help you take the steps. You're not on your own. This is not a journey by yourself. There's people out there like this gentleman, like myself, like this podcast, like his podcast. So when you think it's all over and said and done, guess what? It's not. There's people around you that love you to the max. We love you. Love yourselves. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
Has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.
Please be advised that this podcast is meant for educational and informational purposes only and is in no way a replacement for legal or medical advice. The opinions contained within are solely those of the interviewers and interviewees and should be received as so. Those seeking help or advice are encouraged to obtain professional legal and medical services.
Hey, hope you had a great time listening to the show. If you think I did a great job, please buy me a coffee. I still got a lot of work to do. We would love to hear from you, your feedback, so please click the link and leave us a review. You can help us grow by following us on all social media platforms and sharing this link. Once again, it's time for you to jump. Success is waiting.